Okay, welcome to Daniel Group Podcast.
Hello.
My name's Jordan. This is
Austin.
He's a friend of mine. He's part of my Daniel Group. There's how many of us? Like 6 of us in the group.
Yep.
And we gather once a week and we just seek the Lord and love on God and seek to apply Him in the spheres of life that we each come from, so to speak. And here we are next to the fires of Daniel, I think it's 3. Just we're practicing Danielness right here. You know what I'm saying?
You can't see them. One of our members is in there right now.
We're about to pull her out. But anyways,
faith challenge.
Are you Daniel enough? But anyways, I just wanted to bring Austin on the podcast just because I love him. I consider him a Daniel, and I'm just gonna ask him to tell probably a couple stories of him just touching the marketplace and just how the Lord's used him there. So first of all, where do you work and what do you do?
I'm training to be a chef, and I work in a restaurant in the kitchen. I work alongside other chefs and other students, so that's my sphere of influence.
Yep. And why did you go there? Why are you a chef?
I went there because as I was in school, I did 4 years of ministry school, and I believe I'm called to ministry, but I also believe I'm called to the marketplace. But while I was in school, the Lord gave me a dream about cooking. He did give me literal dreams, but first it was just Him awakening my heart in love. I realized I loved cooking, and I thought it was just a little thing, but the Lord was like, no, I have a future for you in this, son. And so yeah, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
So like, has the Lord opened doors for you in this area?
Yeah, so I have no formal training, and most people, the restaurants that I've worked in so far, most people have had formal training. And I've just seen the Lord open door after door of places I shouldn't be, technically, according to the world standard, but places where the Lord has opened doors. I believe it's Isaiah 22:22 says, I'll give you the keys of David, and you'll walk through doors that no man could open, and I'll close doors that no man could close. That's been a prayer of my life, even in the marketplace, of Lord, put me where you want me, and He's made me a light to many people in the marketplace.
That's awesome. So I remember at one of the restaurants you worked for, you had this word of knowledge for one of the chefs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that? Can you tell that story real quick?
Yeah. I was working at one restaurant, my first restaurant, and was learning a lot. The Lord had given me the gift of word of knowledge, and was really using that in my life at that time. And so I had a back pain that was abnormal. So sometimes the Lord will speak through random pains in people's body and that's a word of knowledge. Sometimes you see it, hear it, feel it. I was feeling this one, and I just had a random back pain that I hadn't done anything to earn a back pain. And so when that happens, you want to turn it into dialogue with the Lord, and just ask Him, hey, what's up? Is this me or is this you? And I felt like it was the Lord. And I was like, okay, it's you, Lord. Who's it for? And I felt like it was for my boss. I was super intimidated. I really respected my boss, even though he was unsaved. I just really respected him, and I was like, Lord, this is going to be weird. Everybody knew I was a Christian and that I loved Jesus. But I was just like, all right, Lord, I'm going to go for it. If I get fired, I get fired. For being weird, be weird for Jesus. And so I asked my chef, right as he was walking out to leave, I was like, hey, Andy, do you have back pain? And he just looks at me weird and he goes, yeah, I do. And I didn't even pray for him then. I was just like, you know what, Andy? The Lord told me that, and I'm going to be praying for you. He's like, okay, thanks. And so I didn't see him for a number of days after that, but then I saw him later that week, and I was like, hey, Andy, how's your back? And he goes, weird, funny thing. He actually found me first. He came charging up to me. He goes, you asked me about my back, and I was like, yeah, I did. I was like, how's it going? And he goes, the strangest thing. when you asked me that, I felt this warmth and these chills come over me. And he goes, and my back hasn't hurt since. I've been in pain for years. And so later on that day, I found him in the parking lot, and I was able to share the gospel with him, say, Andy, the Lord told me that because he loves you and he wants you. To this day, I have a really good relationship with him. He's still unsaved, but he's still a man I really respect, and a man who really looks out for me in my sphere of influence. He's always texting me about job opportunities or where I should grow. So the Lord really opened that door with him.
Yeah, and when I've heard you talk about that opportunity and the more recent interaction that you've had with him, there's a love that he has for you, a trust and a relationship.
Yeah.
That he has for you, he really respects you, and so.
He's an unsaved man in completely heathen environments, and he'll still come up and give me hugs, which is totally not
the kitchen etiquette.
Very not kitchen etiquette.
And one thing I find very beautiful about that, Austin, is it wasn't a one moment thing. Because you worked with him, you still saw him, and so that. Just like Daniel in the Bible, he was with that king, he served kings for years,
mm-hmm.
and he built a reputation of honor with them, and he was able to love them into Jesus to a certain degree. And I just see you doing that with him, and that I think is super beautiful. And so that's one story,
mm-hmm.
but to make it even more quote normal.
Yeah.
Can you talk about more what your more recent boss has said about you, and you're just you living life in the kitchen, not necessarily
Yeah. So I'm at a different restaurant now, completely different people, and what the Lord's been speaking to me about, because He hasn't necessarily given me anything to speak, other than a few opportunities. But first off, before I talk about that, I just want to talk about how what the Lord has been talking to me about in this other environment is just being faithful and what that means to Him, and being faithful in your sphere of influence, whether it be in a kitchen or a ministry, whether it be a single mom or a university teacher, whatever you do. The Lord is really honored by our faithfulness just to serve and love Him, and there's been months that I've gone without words of knowledge or promptings for people in that arena. I ask for them regularly, but there's been times when I ask for open doors, and the Lord, we can sometimes get frustrated with it's not coming, I don't have anything, and the Lord's really been speaking to me about just being faithful and being content with where He's put me, and trusting and leaning into Him to open up doors. And our success as Christians in our spheres of influence isn't the opportunities. It is our faithfulness, whether you're a dishwasher in a kitchen, whether you're at the top university teacher or a lawyer or a ruler of a nation. It's about faithfulness and just living before His eyes. But yeah, in this other kitchen, I haven't said anything. People, I think, knew that I was a Christian, maybe knew that I had gone to ministry school, but I hadn't said anything about it. I was kind of helping a new guy. Him and I would work the morning shift together, and he was kind of sloppy, kind of leaving stuff out after he was done with it. And so I would just throw reminders his way, hey, are you done with this? And he'd be like, yeah. I was like, okay, can you put that away? And manners don't mean much in the kitchen at all. It's a lot of F-U, God D-U. It's a lot of that. Can you just? It's not a pleasant or uplifting environment. Honoring, yeah. It's very degrading. But obviously, because I follow Jesus, I don't conduct myself in that way, because that's not how He's led us to, because that's not how He treats us. But so one time, when there was several people in the kitchen, he had left out some soap. I said, hey, Alec, are you done with the soap? And he's like, yeah. He goes, I love how you're never a jerk about stuff. This is really weird. You're always nice and polite. He goes, it's kind of different, weird. And my boss, I didn't even realize she was standing behind me. My boss just pipes up and she goes, yeah, I don't think Austin has it in his nature to be a jerk. And I was like, what? Like, who? I had only worked there like 3 weeks. And maybe 3.5 or 4, but not very long. Like, and I hadn't had any opportunities that the Lord had led me into to talk about the gospel, or my faith. And she was like, yeah, I don't think Austin has it in his nature to be a jerk. And I was just like, what? Like wow, like the lifestyle is of just being faithful before the Lord. It doesn't just shine before the Lord, but it shines before men in being faithful in everything you do. And
you're like a salt lick.
Yeah, something like that.
You know what I'm saying? Like Matthew 5 says, you are the salt of the earth, and like by just being faithful, you're like being salty.
Yeah, and it's the being faithful with being, you're a boyfriend, a fiance, being married. It's being faithful with all those things, wherever you're at in life, whether you're married or unmarried, just being faithful with what the Lord's put in front of you that day. Oftentimes, I know friends of mine, they just wake up and say, Father, I want to hear you today. I want to love you well today, because all I have is today. And I know Jordan prays that prayer a lot. And it's just being faithful with today, and not dreaming with the Lord about the future is different than being anxious about the future and worrying. Jesus says in Matthew 6, do not worry about the future, what things you'll put on, things you'll wear, about money. The Father in heaven knows all those things that you need. So he knows you need money. He knows you need clothes, food. He cares about all of that. He says, are you not of more value to me than the sparrows that are sold for a few cents? And so being content with today, but dreaming with him about the future.
That's so good. Well, I just think you're one of my heroes.
Thanks, Jordan.
You're welcome.
You're one of mine.
Thank you.
Follow this man.
Follow that man. If you ever hang out with him or see him walking down the street, he'll take you somewhere fun. So this is this week's podcast. Tune in next week. Thanks for hanging out next to the fireside. Peace.